the Kayak Bass Nation. Yeah. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation, where we talk about fishing and competition. It's your boy Ox Pippin, aka Ox Fishing. Don't come over here tripping. Hey, hope you enjoy the show. Jeff Malott, Lunch Money Lambert, Lego. Hey, welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey, welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to KBN Live. Happy Valentine's Day. There's no more romantic place to spend Valentine's Day than right here with us on KBN Live.
Amen to that. I don't know. I don't think you figured it out until I asked you at the house. Like, are we doing this on Valentine's Day?
My box of chocolates and card from Walgreens on the way home was a big hit, so I picked that up on the way home last night. So
I got canceled on. I thought I had Valentine's plans. I was gonna try to squeeze in a dinner, but there's not enough time in the day, so here I am packing for Orlando tomorrow morning.
There you go. Man, tournament week. It was the first big tournament of the year for both of us. Didn't quite go how we had planned it, but it was still a hell of a time, man. I had fun down there. What'd you think of the weekend?
That went exactly like I thought it was going to go for me. That's every year is a pretty similar result on that first one. That's what, keep you humble, knock you down real quick. It was a great time. Our house was great. We had a good time hanging out with everybody. So that's kind of what you show up for me on that first one anyway. It's a social experiment.
Yeah, the house was awesome. I got to spend some time with some guys that I really didn't know very well. Josh Evans, Dave Cottrell, some of those guys, awesome guys, had fun with them there at the house. Ryan and I, for the first time, teamed up on cornhole. We had a good little run going for a minute. We had a blast doing that.
Turns out we're not bad. Kayak Cushion was the shocker of the cornhole bracket. Turns out old Kayak Cushion can sling some bags all right.
He was slinging them. He didn't like the trash talk very much, but
could not handle the trash talk, but he did enjoy the cornhole part.
He did enjoy the cornhole. I teamed up with him for a little bit too. I had all the ringers on my team. It was crazy.
Yeah, you're pretty slick. You must be famous.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to do any kind of tourney recap of what happened with you down there? I know you had some harrowing experiences, especially on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind too. We launched actually right where the captain's meeting was, which was also, I feel like we need to touch on that. This was like the first real, full scale big tournament that we've had since COVID started at Lake Norman 2 years ago. So rolling up to that and seeing 200 people packed under the pavilion there for the captain's meeting was awesome. But I fished right there, right in front of the place was my plan. There was a big school of spotted bass out there. And then my largemouth bite was about 2.5 miles across the creek, which is like a lake on Toledo Bend. I went over to it. The wind kicked up. It started raining, coming back across, and I just ate rollers over the bow for about an hour and 20 minutes getting back across. By the time I got back across, I had taken on quite a bit of water, and the old bow was sitting just a couple inches above the water line. I could feel it rolling around pretty good, cold, wet, about to sink. So that was that was a great day one. Day two was much more relaxing, but fishing was about the same.
Yeah, man. For me, I thought I found a little something in practice and actually caught a limit on day one. Lost a pretty good fish that would have helped, but that weather change on day two, I was fishing real shallow, and I was on the very south end of the lake down by the dam. and found some fish that I thought were trying to move up to spawn already, which makes sense since the south end of that lake's like a totally different lake from the north end. I mean, it's 70 miles long. But that post front kind of turned all that off, and I couldn't figure it out, didn't know what to do. So day 2 did not go well for me. But all in all, it was still a great weekend. And like you said, man, it was cool to see everybody at the captain's meeting. It felt kind of weird at first. I hadn't seen it in 2 years, so seeing all those people there and shaking hands and bumping fists and eating pizza, all that stuff was awesome. We got to see
how it should be.
Saw that dope picture you took that we put up of
and Bayou Coast. Thanks to Bayou Coast for cooking for everybody. Those guys for their regular everyday tournaments, they cook. They cook for every weigh-in. Big meals. So they had some pasta dishes and whatnot down there. Great guys, very hospitable. If you've never fished one of their events, you definitely need to.
Yeah, Steve's in the comments. Got to shake Steve's hand there at the check-in. He was out risking it all in the media boat, so appreciate Steve. And we're going to learn what you and I did wrong because we've got the champ, Rolando, here with us to tell us what he did. He kind of gave a recap on his own Facebook page. Of course, he talked at the captain's meeting. We're going to get into some of that because what he did was super impressive. I even want to talk to him about fork because he gave it a run at fork too. We thought he was going to pull it off there and had a giant bag day 1 and I think he won big bass or was close to it over there with 24.5 inch fish.
He put up a bag. I thought he was sandbagging on day 2. I thought he was about to come in and knock off G Money. Yeah,
so super impressive first 2 events for him. So we're going to get him in here and let him break it down for us. It was cool to see, some good friends. I had a bunch of Old Town teammates do really well. I see Dale Griffin in the comments. He finished in the top 10. We had another one in the top 20. A couple other folks just outside the money. I know some folks in our house were just outside the top 20. Dave made a run at it. Dylan was 1 fish short of being up there.
My boy, day 1 deal. He's still at it. Man, I hate seeing that. I want to see Dylan bust out on day 2. I know it's going to happen. We had another guest in our house, a new face, Ewing's brother Nolan, who is just as gifted as Ewing. So he almost cracked the top 10. He kind of checked. What was he, like 13th or something like that? 16th.
Yeah, he made a huge climb on the day 2. He those Ewings, man, or those miners. Ewing gave us some of his proverbs as well. Some of his really good sayings there in the house. He's an interesting cat. Oh, he froze up on me, Ryan. You good? Come back to me. Come back to me, Ryan. It's Valentine's Day.
I thought I was still here.
Well,
Am I not?
There you go. Now you're good.
I'm right here, Jeff.
It had froze up on us, but we're good.
All right, my bad.
Yeah, I see some people in the comments talking about Saturday was wild. It was straight up scary coming back from where I was fishing. I was fishing in a real calm little area. I was protected from the wind, but coming back, I was taking some heat as well. So hats off to all the people that made it back safe. Everybody seemed to do that. We saw some funny not funny, but scary videos like Luke Arian, Dylan Lowry.
Some funny videos. I mean, they were on the bank with ocean waves pounding.
Yeah, they were funny after the fact, knowing that they made it back. It wouldn't have been funny if they wouldn't have came back. But Luke put one up. Dylan had a funny one trying to drag himself around the side of a point there. So
poor deal. He said this is too much waves to pedal in. He gonna have to get out and walk it back like a little puppy dog.
Yeah, crazy stuff. But yeah, let's get Rolando in here after a quick break. We always want to thank our sponsors, of course, Western Sun Vodka, drink of choice. We got Revo sunglasses tonight. I got a pair hanging. It's Throwing Shade Monday.
Share this
giving away a pair of Revos. Yeah, you guys
push it around. Push it around.
You got to like and share the stream. Go like Revo's page, our page, and share this live stream, and you can win a pair of sunglasses up to $300.
You can do it. Each one reach one. Jeff busted that classic saying out at the house. We all fell out. Yeah. Man's got a memory on him.
Hey, speaking of that, real quick before we break and get Rolando in here, talking about the community as a whole, how cool was it to see, our community has grown to such a point that we're able to sell out an event like that. We got a couple more sellouts coming up. Bass had a good turnout on Fork. I think this community is unique in the fact that it kind of, just like KBN, the group page, it self-polices. It kind of cleans itself up, and the cream rises to the top, wouldn't you say?
I mean, if you put out a good product, the anglers are your customers. If you're doing more for them, whether it's better scheduling, better payouts, working with other organizations, that's what makes these successful. That's where you see that growth. Like, it doesn't have to be, divisive, threats and whatever. You can just put out a good product and then you're successful. That's the best part of it.
Yeah. I mean, cleans itself up. The best products, like you said, push themselves to the front naturally, organically, whatever you want to say. I hope the All-American Series coming up next week, I hope they have a big turnout, and we'll have another.
I'm looking forward to covering them this season.
Yeah, yeah. We'll see what they do because it's another Texas one. It's like the Texas three-step. We'll ask Rolando if he's going. He might try to three-peat with top fives in Texas.
Boy, here we go.
Yeah, but let's take a quick break. We'll get him in here and hear from the champ and hear what his plans are for the rest of the year and how he took down that monster of a lake this weekend. We'll be right back, y'all.
Accessories Dugout has is just, it's excellent. The anodized handles for lift and reverse on the motor. Speaking of motor, I decided to go with the Newport this year. The reason I really like the Newport is you can choose whatever brand, 24 volts versus hours of runtime. I went with the Tim Percy steering system on this. The unit is so clean in it. You can pan optics with the remote. You want to be able to control when that. I truly in kayak fishing. The best reels, the best tackle, and the best customer service. I know where I can find all this under one roof. It's in Marietta, Georgia. Give Jamie Koza a call and let him absolutely trick out your dream rig.
All right. And I last time we played that little clip, Ryan, I meant to give kudos to your little actress there. She stood in and did a great job for your video.
She's hanging in there.
Yeah. But Rolando, welcome, man. Thanks for coming on tonight. After all these tournaments, I know the people that just fished them, whether they won or not, are exhausted, so I know you're tired and back home. But we appreciate you taking the time, man. Congrats, and thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So, yeah, I don't know which one of us want to start with the questions. We'll get some from the crowd, but I know we're both curious as to how you made this happen.
I've got a question. I mean, what was your main approach to this lake? Had you fished Toledo Bend a lot more, in your past? Did you have some, prior knowledge to it? How did you find where you wanted to start? Let's start there.
I've been on Toledo Bend one other time for about 3 hours on it because I used to do some boat tournaments with a friend of mine. So we were at a Sam Rayburn event, and since we were so close, we're like, hey, why don't we go drop in the boat over there and just go mess around for a bit the next day? And that's the only time I actually seen it. So it doesn't really count because I only got to see a pocket of it for like 3 hours. But while we were there, it did actually show out pretty good. So I knew the potential of the lake. And going into this, I only had 2 days of practice because I didn't have enough PTO to get off from work. So I got a bunch of stuff scheduled out, already kind of pre-planned. So I had to wanted to get 2 days of practice in. So I scheduled to leave Wednesday, showed up Thursday. I did a lot of map study. I looked into the weather, kind of saw, the full moon was coming up too. So I kind of started calculating things to see where I wanted to be at the lake. I saw that the wind was going to get pretty bad on Saturday. So I made a strategic planning to try to find a place that was going to be protected, but also had a good spawning area or a pre-staging area where there's a high percentage of spawners, but maybe I could find them out in the open a little bit and get away from the crowd. Cause usually when it gets hairy like that, people look for those protected pockets. So I do a lot of planning when I go to these events because I don't get a lot of practice. I get to see sometimes one day, if I'm lucky, I'll get 2 days on it. So I'm constantly on the computer and I'm, I run the Garmin units. So I try to buy the maps, the best maps that they offer so I can, have a chance of those guys, man, that they get to see the water a lot, and, there's some truth to that, man. It takes a while to figure these lakes out. So I got to shorten that learning curve, by doing a lot of good map studying and just kind of looking really close to, planning my day out for those 2 days that I'm going to be there. And I really don't waste any time, man. I don't talk to anybody. I travel with 3 buddies of mine. They're all pretty hardcore fishermen. So we show up, we say hi to each other, and then we're off on the water, pretty much all day. But yeah, that's usually, where do I start? I guess, do I just go into my practice day, see where I start there?
Let me ask you this first, and you don't have to give away any juice. Did you fish north, south, or mid-lake?
So first day mid lake, second day south.
South.
My number one spot was the south. I lost a giant in practice, and I was around fish, so I was like, man, this is gonna be good. When I started really looking at the weather, I was like, this is not gonna happen. I can't fish this south end right here. So I had to. I didn't want to start on day two or day one. I didn't want to start at that other spot, but I was kind of forced to, and I was just happy that I found a lot of brush piles and a lot of laydowns. So I knew people were going to be beating the banks, and I try to find a lot as much as I can offshore, because if that doesn't plan out, I can always beat the bank later in the day. Usually on cloudy days, I beat the bank because fish are usually roaming around and things. So it was kind of a risk for me on day one to actually show up. And I went completely the opposite direction towards the open lake, main lake area versus where everybody was going. But I knew I had about an hour window before it got really, really bad. And I had marked some stuff out there. So I took that chance of just going out there and quickly checking things out. And I'm glad I did, because I got my limit pretty quick on day one doing that.
Were you on the protected side of the lake? I mean, were you like on the east side when you started day one?
Day one, I was on both days I was on Texas side, and and it was mid lake, so it was picking up. It was going to get pounded. It was just wide open, so I knew it was coming any minute now. And I was kind of picking up when we took off. I waited those 30 minutes, and I started just, as soon as that time came around, I didn't waste any time. Like, I already had stuff marked, so I didn't bother to really try to look around too much. So luckily, everything I had marked actually still was holding fish. So I went to work with and everybody knows I love throwing a jerkbait. It's my number one lure to go to, and I use that thing all year round. But when that doesn't work, I go to conventional stuff, Texas rig or some cranking. But for me, it planned out that first morning, and I got my limit within, I guess, I don't know, an hour and a half, 2 hours.
I got you. Well, let's rewind it, because we were going to get into your practice. I was just curious where you fished on the lake, because I've talked to some other people.
Mid-lake, yep.
Yeah. So just, you said you had 2 days.
2 days.
Tell us how that went. How you found what you found, and how that played out for you.
Yeah, so Wednesday night, didn't get much sleep. Woke up pretty early on Thursday, and decided to go to that south end. And I think the water temps there were, I want to say they were like 47 or 48 at the time. And I found some back pockets were actually kind of warm on the back end. And but I went actually looking back there, and I didn't find very much. So I decided to start scanning, and I used my sides. Everybody knows I love to use a live scope, but man, I still say number one tool for me is a side scan. I love that thing, and I usually use it very efficiently and effectively. And I mark stuff all the time, and I can see fish on there, and I'm marking it. I must have marked, I don't know, probably about 12 or 13 things that I could see had some fish on it. And I left. I just went, scoped them out. I saw there was fish. I sampled a few, caught a couple of fish, left.
Sampled a few. I like that.
Yeah.
Just sampled a few.
Yeah. Yeah. Usually, sometimes you don't know what you're looking at, and just want to make sure they're bass or things like that. Sometimes, with the live scope, sometimes you get caught up wasting a lot of time. You see drum catfish. If you don't have a really calm day, you're not really getting them side profile. It's really hard to make out if they're catfish or bass. If you get them sideways, you can clearly tell they're catfish. But using that live scope is it's a good tool, but takes a while to really actually make it effective. Because it can hurt you quite a bit. And it did hurt me when I first got it. I was actually catching less fish with it when I first got it. And it took me a good, when my wife actually bought it for me for Christmas, I didn't even know what it was. It was just, I opened the box and I'm like, what is this, underwater camera?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. And it took me a while to master it. Of course, there was no YouTubes and channels at then, but I've had some time with it. So I got it down pretty good. But that was my day.
I tried it Saturday and Sunday, and like you said, I mean, pre-fishing and on Saturday, man, I was out there watching, and I mean, I was just like wrapped up in watching these big bait balls and the bass come up and eat them and whatnot. I'm like, what in the world? And then Sunday, you know, I was marking an area where I knew there were fish, but they look like knots on the trees. You know, it's these like post
Yep.
oaks out there on the flats, and it looked like knots on the tree. I was talking to Dylan about it, and I was like, man, yeah, I was seeing like knots on the trees. He's like, dude, those are fit. Like those are just fish like sucked right up against the tree. Those trees ain't got no knots on them. I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
Yeah. You know, I get that excitement that kicks in when I find a tree that's loaded and it's just lit up because, you know, LiveScope has, you know, it offers you that opportunity to be able to see that. And that there's a couple of times where you know, I run into these trees and it's loaded with catfish and it's like, darn it, they're not bass. And sometimes you'll, you know, if you don't know any better, you'll spend time because catfish will show interest in your lures. And so you'll think that you're onto something, and there goes, you know, 20, 15, 30 minutes trying to catch, and then you realize they're catfish. So also, you know, you get a lot of you know, if it's a sunny day, you get a lot of disturbance in the unit, pick up a lot of particles, you get a lot of reflection off those timber, and they'll look like those knots that you're talking about, and they're actually not fish. It's just like it's the way the beam is bouncing off the wood and it makes it glow. So there's a lot of little things you got to pick up over time when you experience it.
Matt Fentress has a question. How many fish are you catching live scoping on jerk baits? I don't know if, like, I guess in a day or
Yeah, a lot of the times the jerk bait is not a really good search tool because it slows you down too much. So what I do is I only turn on the live scope and I only use it once I kind of locate an area where it's kind of I'm getting bites, and then once I narrow it down and zone in on them, you know, I'll start going to, you know, picking it apart, and the jerk bait comes into play because, I mean, it's just a really great bait, man. It just draws
like a sniper.
It's like just one of those things that takes practice. It's not really effective unless you really got it dialed in, because it could, you know, you go running a bank with the jerk bait, it slows you down, and sometimes you need to cover water to run in those fish.
Yeah, and I see more questions in the comments, and we'll go back to some of those. I know Shane's got a couple in there, Mr. Carnahan. We'll get back to your questions. We just want to let Rolando get through his practice and day. So in practice, you were looking for pre-spawners. It sounds like you didn't want to find them up on the banks already.
Yep, I love if I can, I'll target pre-spawners, you know, more than anything else. It's just I feel like those fish are a little bit less pressured. They're easier to convince. So I usually go for pre-spawners, and if I can't go for pre-spawners, then I start covering water, you know.
Were you looking at like channel swing, like that kind of thing, like highways, if you will, like, you know, the channels, the ditches, that kind of thing, the flats surrounding those?
Yeah, I usually start as far out as possible in the mouth of things, just to see where I can run into them. And then I'll work my way in, trying to figure out if they're, you know, halfway in, a quarter of the way in. And of course, I'll make my way all the way to the back. And occasionally, you know, right now the water temps were not supporting, you know, to make it to the back of the coves. I wasn't seeing anything where I was at that would tell me that there was going to be already fish making their beds back there. But what I did find, because I never ruled it out, you know, these fish don't read the books we do, so sometimes you got to keep them honest. And so I did go to the back on one of the coves, and I actually found, man, I mean, it must have been stacked with like 20, 25 spotted bass. And it was weird because they were very isolated to like a very small area, and they were all bunched up. And I thought they were crappie. And I threw my jerkbait in there, and I just saw a ton of them come out. And I'm like, yeah, they're probably crappie. And I actually caught one. And I'm like, holy, they're spotted bass. And so I was like, man, I didn't come to Toledo Bend to catch spotted bass, but I was like, man, I'm going to go ahead and just leave this spot. I marked it. That actually kind of gave me a little life on day two. But we can get to that. But yeah, I most of the stuff I always start in the beginning. I scan as much as I can. I mark everything. And Honestly, I try to go for big fish, man. That live scope really allowed me to target bigger fish, and I try to do that, because I sometimes, I'll get, I used to fish where I used to run the bank a lot, and I feel like I've gotten more efficient, and I don't need to catch, 30, 25 fish. I just rather target bigger fish, and I just try to find where those, try to study the fish where most of them are hunkered down. So I started with that, and usually my practices are just pretty much scanning. I'm not fishing. I don't show up and start casting at a bank because I really don't care to catch too many fish. I'm just kind of looking for pods of fish that are not going to be as pressured.
You're too smart. That's what I've determined.
Van
What I've
Tine,
determined from this interview.
Yeah, Ryan Van Tine said your high-tech, intelligent self is making him feel like a bum.
It's funny talking about pre-fishing and the water depths and the backs of creeks. So Ryan Backa actually asked a question about glide baits. Our boy Dave that was staying in the house with us, old Dave, he was in like 2 feet of water throwing freaking glide baits, catching them in the back of a creek on
Nice.
I guess it was Friday. And I mean, he caught them well on day one too. Day two, that bite died with the post frontal conditions. But I mean, everybody's talking or whatever. We're like, how'd you catch him today? He's like, oh, I was throwing a glide bait in 2 feet of water. I'm like, what in the hell? Like I promise I wasn't doing that. That's,
Yeah.
I'm okay losing if that's the bite. I was not doing that. So I'm way off.
What he was throwing, Ryan, was a wake bait.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah, he was throwing basically a topwater back there already. And he caught 10 or 15 of them on his day one, he said.
Yeah, you hear people do that, and that's why I hate talking to going to the meetings and hearing everybody discussing things, because it gets in your head. You start hearing people catching them in 2-3 feet, and I was hearing that, and I was like, man, should I be up at the bank? And I was like, you know what? Nah, I'm just gonna stick with what I know, what I practice with. And
I was catching them good on a jackhammer pre-fishing in like 6 to 8 feet, which is number one, exactly what I wanted to do. Number two, what I kind of expected. I didn't expect them to be up super shallow trying to spawn, but I expect them to be on, some of the secondary points, the little canals and cut-ins. That's what I thought I was going to be looking for. Shane, to answer your question, I was there in San Miguel, and I don't know that I could have picked a worse place for the wind on day one, but that's where I was, so.
Yeah, and we'll get back to some more questions. Shane actually asked another question earlier. He said, did grass play a factor at all? And I don't know that there's any place with thick grass on Toledo right now, is there?
I didn't find. I found little sections that I could see in the bottom with the live scope that looked like grass, but I wasn't able to pick anything up to really. I wasn't on grass. Everything I fished was timber and laydowns. And they were all, transition points where they're migrating, getting ready to make their move. So that's all I was focusing on. Day two, I can get a little more detail in what I targeted, because I ran out of stuff to fish in those transition stages, So I targeted docks, and that was my day two reason I had picked down south, because it was loaded with docks, and given the conditions, I needed that deep water and and docks. And being that the lake was low 3 feet, I adjusted my Garmin unit, lowered it, changed the water level so I can see which docks were going to be productive that had deep water. I didn't waste any time trying to run any of them, and I think there was only about a handful of them that were still over deep, 10, 12 feet of water. And man, I actually marked those. I went to go look at them, and I caught fish. I caught key fish that actually helped me get the win on day two off of those things.
That's awesome. That comment. Carlos done put you on Front Street now.
Yeah, your buddy Carlos, he said he was up at 2:30 in the morning studying maps while he was getting up to take a pee break. So no sleep. No sleep. So yeah, man, you found some stuff in practice, and I want to ask you about. You said you're fishing laydowns on day one. Is that when you say laydowns, you're not talking about them on the bank, stuff you couldn't see
right.
naked eye, right?
Right, exactly. They were sitting in about 10 to 12 feet of water, and there's so much stuff laying down mid lake there. I was on the like I said, I was on the Texas side, and it's just there was. I mean, when you look at your side scan, it's just a vast area of stuff, and I just look for the biggest clumps of stuff where, where they can get tucked in there and stuff, and that's really what I marked. And I saw another boat doing that on Thursday, and he wasn't catching anything. And I noticed that I drug a Texas rig through there trying to see if I could get some of them. But man, that jerkbait just drives that core feeding inner instinct that they have. And if you get it in front of them, it's really hard for them not to bite it or even show themselves. That's the key thing. Is I did use a glide bait also this weekend on big brush piles to see if I can drive, because I would scan brush piles that looked like they didn't have anything because they were too big, so I didn't know if there was stuff in there. And I would throw a glide bait over that to see if I could draw anything out of them. And occasionally I would, and so I was like, man, they're in there. They're just hunkered down inside of it.
Edwin was saying that he got out there on day 2 with his live scope, and he would have them follow the jerkbait out like almost all the way to the boat, but they would not fire on it. And then, I mean, he got in a pretty good little flurry there and caught his limit. But like for the first 3 or 4 hours, he was, working brush piles and stuff. And he said those fish were they would not eat. They would pursue the jerkbait, but would not eat it.
Yeah, there's a couple things I do I cycle through. I mean, I carry a box full of jerkbaits, and I make all kinds of modifications to them. So, if I can swap them out, I'm doing it sometimes. But and I get it right in front of them to see which one. And talking about that, I was going through the same deal where I couldn't get them to get it really good. And on day 1, I didn't realize how clean the water was because I was out there really early. So it kind of looks stained, but it's got that tannic color to it. So once I realized how clear it was, man, I could see these fish actually come up and go from like 5 feet, 6 feet to come and investigate my jerkbait, which I was like, man, they can see this is not as dirty as I thought it was. And so I took the approach of going very, very natural color, even in that stained water. So if I could give them like a hard like something just to kind of, because I was putting it right in front of them, so I didn't have to have it really bold. So I just went really natural, and they actually started eating it a lot better after I figured that out, where even in the stained water, I was trying to hide it kind of, but you kind of put that lure in there where it's pressured and it pops really, they would come up to it, they nose up to it, and then they turn around and leave right away.
I keep one emergency jerkbait in my kayak in case I absolutely hate my life, and then I'll tie it on and throw that
rusty?
for the rest
Yeah,
of the
rusty.
day.
Rusty.
It is rusty. It's a Vision 110 with rusted hooks. It's like the blue back with the bright yellow stripe. That's my go-to emergency jerkbait.
I'm going to throw this comment from Ryan back up here, and it's a good point he's making because everybody's not going to have live scope right now.
Right.
Right, they can't, but just about all the graphs, affordable graphs, you can find them on the side scan, decent side scan, right? Or even decent down imaging. And he says here, you don't need anything fancy to use your graph appropriately. If it wasn't for his graph and marking brush piles, he wouldn't even have gotten a limit. And he ended up finishing he was just outside of getting a check. Katie Bacca, so Team Bacca over there, both of them were in the top 50, and they were marking brush piles with their graphs. So you don't have to have live soap to pull that off, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I still think side scan is the best invention, man. That's once you master that, you'll elevate your game quite a bit actually, because it's gonna give you access to bigger fish. Because a lot of these tournaments are in primetime season, right? We're all used to, going in when they're pushing up, right? Spring, they're getting ready for the spawn, and so a lot of us, it's kind of like the easier time to go bass fishing because you're gonna run into them if you cover enough water on the bank. But if you master that side scan, it doesn't matter what season you're in. You're going to be proficient and efficient to finding fish pretty much all the time.
Well, let's get into your day one, man. You said you got a limit pretty quick there. Let's get into how day one went for you.
Yeah, I launched and I went probably about not even 100 yards from the boat ramp out towards the mouth of the area I was fishing, and started fishing just the brush piles that I had. And it was all that morning was jerkbait, rattle trap, and spinnerbait. Most of them did come off the jerkbait, but I did get some good fish off the rattle trap. I got a good fish off of there. That rattle trap was, and I'll give a little bit of juice of that out of the rattle trap, because I yo-yo the rattle trap when when it's not too crazy deep, and I actually put a feather hook on it, and that's only effective. That's only effective when you're yo-yoing it, and I think it just gives them something a little more life to it,
Hey,
I've never. I don't know anybody throwing feathers on rattle traps. So
Nope.
you win that
Dugout
one.
Fishing, DugoutFishing.com have feather trailers.
They're about to. Jamie, put on feathered rattle traps. Go.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't chuck and wind that. It's just when you got a little bit of stain in the water, and I use it when I yo-yo it, because it just makes it look like it's got a little tail on it when it's coming down. So
Smart.
That's the only time I ever use that.
Have you ever used a rooster tail? Those are really, really great feather baits as well.
Yeah, old school.
He's not giving up all the juice, Ryan.
He caught them all in a rooster tail. Somebody said something about you and Carlos sharing a bed.
Man, every
I'm not trying to start any rumors here, but we need to address this. Now that we got to the feather in the tail part, I'm going to go ahead.
He
and
just
throw
won a
that question
tournament,
out
Ryan.
there.
He can afford his own room for now.
No, man,
Oh, boy.
we always end up adding like one person, because someone waits to the last minute to be like, yeah, I didn't book a room, or I don't have anything, man. Do you got some room? And it always ends up where like, man, I guess I could share my bed, and we're just split the cost, and so we end up doing that. And yeah, I ended up sharing it is a king size bed, so we got plenty of room between us.
We
There's
had
a
people
buffer.
sleeping on windowsills. Dave slept on some little plywood box. Like we way overbooked that one for sure. I wish we had nicer people in our house, so they shared beds, but no one did.
Yeah, I appreciate you giving Pappy the room there, Ryan. Y'all gave me my own little bedroom, so that was nice.
Well,
of
you said you wouldn't come if we didn't give you your own room, so
that is true.
You really
I
have a
threatened you
choice.
with not showing up. I have
Good times.
to go through my procedures at night before I go to sleep. You don't want to see that.
How did you change your game plan on day two? So you told us how day one went, but what happened? How did you shift gears for that bluebird sky, brutally cold post frontal day?
Yeah, and it's hard to do that because given that the limits that were being turned in on day one, I was like, man, I really did want to go back to my day one spot, but I started looking at the weather, and I said to myself, man, it's going to be bluebird skies. There is no docks. I mean, there is docks there, but they're pretty much out of water. They're like a foot of water. I was like, I can't run any docks. Everybody was beating the bank there. Everything I found, everybody saw me where I was catching them that was around me. So I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm going to have that, if it's going to be as good for day two. So I decided to go to the first location, which was down south that I had practice at, because that had docks, which I needed for bluebird skies, and it had deep water. So I knew that they were going to be in the shade. As soon as the sun comes up, they were going to be feeding in the morning. I said, you know what? Fishing's going to slow down around 10:30. Everybody's going to be struggling trying to find fish. And if I can just find those shaded areas, I mean, they're kind of easy pickings. They're kind of, you already know that they don't really like to roam around in sunny bluebird skies, and they're going to find that shade or deeper water. And that eliminates from me having to run banks and your transition points of like sand to rock, that goes out of the window. Like you don't need to fish any of that stuff that you're doing, because I can just go and target very specific shaded areas at this point, and that eliminates a lot of guessing, and it worked for me, because as soon as I found the docks that were still in deeper water, I just fished those, and I skipped everything in between.
I wish we had this interview last Thursday.
That's what I'm saying, right? That's what I'm saying. Because everything Rolando's saying that, I thought these people were going to do this,
it makes
and
sense,
it wasn't going to work.
but
I'm like, that's what I did. No wonder I sucked it up.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah,
That's cool.
well done.
Did y'all fish docks?
I really didn't fish docks. I fished down in Indian Creek about as far southwest as you could go.
Yep.
And I found real warm water, and I had fish way up in the back of some of those pockets that were trying to spawn, but they disappeared.
Jeff, were you at day 2 at Indian Creek?
Yeah. Did you fish down there?
I did. There was only 3 of us.
Oh, my God. I couldn't catch a fish down there.
Oh, here we go.
So I launched at that south, what is it called?
Did you launch at the bridge?
No, not at the bridge, at the main boat ramp. What is it called? Oh gosh.
Over by the dam?
Toledo, by the dam. Toledo South.
Yeah, I didn't fish over there. I fished towards the back.
Towards the back of it, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
You needed deep water, Jeff, on deeper
Yeah.
docks. Come on, man.
Yeah, the only people that launched with us was me, Kate Fields, and Lance, AJ's cousin, McWhorter from Texas.
Yeah.
AJ's cousin. I got you.
Yeah,
So I was out at the front of it, and you were at the back of it.
Yeah, I was at not the very back, but pretty far back.
He was
Pretty
on the
far back.
winning side of the
Yeah.
creek. You were in the back of it.
So I was literally around the corner from the winning fish, Ryan. How about that?
That's beautiful. I'm glad you were there. Your
Rondo, I wish I'd
instincts
have known you were
correct,
there.
Jeff.
I would have went. I could have came and filmed you while you won the tournament. That's what I would have done for you.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, there we go. I was too far back.
Alas.
So look at this day 2 leaderboard here, and looking at the total leaderboard, your fish were all similar in size, 16.5 to 18 there. And then you had that 19 and 3/4 inch kicker. Can you tell us when you caught that? Or is there any kind of story behind that? Because that won you the tournament. You were only an inch ahead of the second place finisher, Cody Henley, there.
Yeah, man. That 19.75 and that 16.75, man. I'll send you a picture. I actually doubled up on an A rig on those 2 fish. There was a tremendous cold right off the bat when that happened. I felt it.
Send that picture.
That ain't no jerk bait.
No,
Jerk bait. Come on.
that was jerk bait was mostly dominant day 1 and a little bit in day 2.
Do you have feathers on your A rigs at all?
No,
Okay. All right.
no. I usually don't really use feathers at all. Actually,
I'm trying to make it a thing. I want to pull up
Yeah.
to the ramp at Santee
it just-
Cooper and see everybody with just feathers hanging off of all their shit. Yeah, that's what I want to see.
I know Patrick. What's his name? From Bassmasters. He's the one that exposed the jerkbait bite right at Lake Fork. He runs that feather on his jerkbait. I still haven't done that, but I'm pretty sure it works. He made it. That's actually where I got the idea of doing the feather for the rattle trap one for yo-yoing it.
So you busted a double on this A rig, and that's essentially what won this whole thing for you.
Yeah, I found a lay down, and I could see that they were glued to the bottom, and they wouldn't come up and eat the jerkbait. So I hate throwing the A rig, and I did not have it. I carry it with me because if there's ever a bite, I know that thing can fire, and I'm not going to get beat with it, so I might as well have it, and I ended up tying it on and threw it that day. And when I started getting bites on it, I was like, man, I'm gonna. There were bigger bites actually with the umbrella rig. So I got it off a lay down, and it was about 20 feet in depth. That lay down was in the middle, right in the middle of a cove, right in the entrance of a cove. And so I picked up that lay down when I was coming into it, kind of beating the bank, and I saw it on the side scan. So I marked it, finished my route. Once I got to the back of like 3/4 of the cove on my way back out, I said, well, let me see what's on this thing. And I pulled up to it and fired it out there, and I let it hit the bottom way past the laydown, and I slow rolled it. And man, I felt that hit, that thump, and I set that thing in, and I was like, man, this is a giant. Well, once I got it up to the boat, I could see that I had 2 on there, and that was a fat fish, man.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yep.
Some people saying, "How dare you hate on the 8 rig?" Some people saying they hate the 8 rig. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like it, man, just because it's kind of a, it's messy. You got to have it all, nice and neat, out of the way. But that's really the only reason I don't like it. I mean, it used to be very effective, where it was kind of like unfair, but fish have gotten conditioned to it. I don't do as good as on the umbrella rig like most people say it does. I think there's times that it does shine, but it's not a huge advantage like it used to be when it first came out.
Let me ask you about how you
Calco's
rig it.
fishing bait sack. That is a key accessory for an A rig. That'll keep you from getting all your other stuff tangled in it all day long.
Nice, appreciate that tip there.
Yeah, man. Ryan turned me onto those bait sacks. Oh, I don't know, a couple months ago. I'd seen them and never really paid much attention to them, but I got a wad of them, and man, those are
anything with treble hooks or A rigs. It's a must have.
I almost said game changer, but for me, I guess it would have been game changer because it did make a lot of things easier. I stopped snagging all my jackets and shirts when I reached back behind me.
Yep.
See if I can find this picture, and I'll send it to you right now.
Yeah, send it. I'll throw it on the screen. But on your A rig, are you running weedless hooks? Because there were people losing A rigs all over the place in the timber over there.
Yeah, I actually did not have the. I didn't get the hooks in time that I really wanted, and I got lazy because I don't like throwing it too much, and so I just left the hooks that have a wire on it. It's a weed guard. Where is this AA rig? So yeah, they were weedless though, and I could feel them hitting tree limbs and stuff, and they do stay pretty weedless as long as you don't lay into them pretty good when you hit those trees thinking it's a bite.
Let's see here. As soon as it comes through, I'll throw it on the screen for you.
I watched Mark Pendergraph catch his first A-rig fish while he and I were out playing around on day 2. I graphed a bunch of fish off a brush pile, and I was like, man, there's a ton of fish here. And he throws his A-rig in and catches like a 2.5-pound crappie. So, yeah, that's about how this day's gone.
And we got a question from Katie Baca, our PR person in the comments there. How much do the glide baits you throw go for normally? You throwing them high dollars? I saw the picture of the one. Was that a Chad Shad, Rolando? It looked like a
No, man, it's Texas swim baits.
Okay.
They run as low as 120 if you get the 6-inch, I think it is, and then it goes up to 150, I think. I can't
Dollars? Dollars
Yes.
or Doge coins?
dollars.
Dog quarters.
Goodness gracious.
They throw. Have you ever thrown a Chad Shad, the KGB swim baits? You a big swim bait guy?
I'm trying to get my hands on one, man. It's so hard to get one.
So the guy that makes those is right down the road here from me.
So Jeff can hook you up right now.
I can't hook you up, but he lives here, so I could maybe go break into his house for you or something. Send me enough money.
Yeah, I hear those things are amazing.
He
So,
does great work. He
Yeah.
does great work. But it's unbelievable when he does a drop on his website. I mean, it's like concert tickets within 5-10 minutes.
It's like a BOS entry. They
That's
just
right. It's like a
flying
BOS
flying
entry.
off
Just
the
gone.
shelves.
Just sold out just like that. It's insane.
Yeah, the Texas swim baits are similar, man. They last maybe about 5 minutes on there too, and he makes a drop on them, and man, they're quality baits. They work. I mean, they look amazing.
Yeah. That
And
bait
they
you
don't-
threw up on your page, on your personal Facebook page, it looks a lot like a Chad Shad. Very similar craftsmanship, I bet. So if they work anything like them, I'm sure they're fantastic.
Yep.
We have some people talking A-rigs in the comments. Anything else for Mr. Rolando tonight? I know he's wore out. It's Valentine's Day. We don't want to keep everybody too long. Super impressive, man. And let's go back for a second before we wind things up about Lake Fork. We thought you were going to pull off Lake Fork. Ryan said it before we came on. We thought you were sandbagging. We were going to run down our boy G Money Garrett Morgan. So how'd Lake Fork go for you?
Day one obviously was good. I jerkbait actually, and I tried the old jig there, but most of my fish in my area were suspended. I was in deeper water, so they were sitting in that 10 to 12 foot range, and that's how I was getting them off of timber. And I had one dock that was pretty loaded, and that dock is what convinced me to go back day 2. Which, man, I I shouldn't have gone back over there. I think that I wore them out day one a little too much on the jerk bait, and I think that hurt me for day two because when I went out there, they just would not eat the jerk bait. I mean, they look at it, they nose up to it, and I could see they were giants. And and in the morning, I hooked into 4, and that rod loaded up completely, and one head shake, and they were off. And I was just like, man, what is going on? I checked my hooks, I checked everything, and I mean, there was nothing wrong with the equipment. It's just they were real picky on how they were getting that thing, and they weren't getting it really good. So I struggled all morning, and then about 9:45, about a little bit before 10 o'clock, my 360 belt busted. So my pedals were slightly turned, and I fixed that, and I ended up it changed my game plan because I'm so used to using my 360, and it works really well in conjunction with my live scope. So I had to adjust where I don't have reverse anymore. I can't turn the nose of a kayak. So, and I'm around all this timber, and I'm getting pushed all up into it. I can't maneuver quietly anymore. I'm over here making all this noise trying to grab a paddle to turn myself, and it just shot my area completely trying to maneuver through all of that stuff. And I was being too loud, wasn't getting the bites that I needed, and I was about to zero. I hadn't had a single fish all day till about 30 minutes to the end of the day when I made it back to the boat ramp. I was like, man, you know what? I caught some good fish over there at that bridge pylon. Let me just go over there and make a last ditch effort. Man, I caught 4 fish within like less than 10 minutes.
But that's why you don't quit. I mean,
No.
that's exactly why. Like, even when my boat was sinking out there, I kept on trying to get to that next point because you can hit a flurry that'll change your whole day. I'm like, don't stop. Like, stop at 4 o'clock and then figure out how to swim.
Yeah, like yesterday, I loaded up midday and went back to Arkansas when all I had to do was go around the corner and maybe catch a few.
Tie some feathers on your stuff and catch a
Get to chunking. I got side scanned for God's sakes. Had I only known. No, I'm just kidding.
What's your favorite jerkbait? Before we get off here, what's your favorert jerkbait? Let's get you signed up.
Right now, I'll tell you, the two best. My favorite is the Mega Bass. It's overpriced. It doesn't last as long. But man, I tell you, the action of it, and there's something about that one that just works. I think works a lot better than those. And the second one is the Berkeley Stunner. The Berkeley Stunner is actually excellent crankbait. You don't have to change anything out of it. All the hardware on it is quality enough to land big fish. You got to be careful with the jerk baits from Mega Bass with the equipment, those hooks.
I had one straighten the back hook, a big one on Chickamauga, straighten the back hook trying to net it. And I was like, man, this is why I don't throw treble hooks. Yeah.
No, it's there's a little work that goes into those baits. You know, when I get them ready to fish them, there's some modifications I do to those and to get them ready because you can catch little 15, 16 inches, but man, those 6-pounders will expose your equipment. And you're gonna be heartbroken.
I would say, how do you modify it to target 6-pounders? Rub something on there.
I think he's trying to modify it to handle 6-pounders.
Yeah,
I think Dylan recommended some Gamakatsu hooks that are the same weight as the Mega Bass hooks, but they don't change the balance or the action, which is the biggest detriment to changing out hooks on like a Mega Bass Vision 110, for instance. You have to keep that dynamic or the bait won't react correctly when you're popping it.
Exactly. Yeah, they're really fine-tuned, man. And you change one hook out and it changes the whole way the thing works. So that's a good and bad thing. But yeah, the hooks, they're not good, and they get worse when you go to the junior size.
Yeah. A couple more quick questions from the crowd before we get you out of here. We got a huge audience tonight, by the way. We've got, I don't know, I think 70 something over on Facebook. We've got our biggest audience ever on YouTube. We're up in the 20s, so we've been running around 100 all night total. So thank you, everyone, for watching wherever you're watching from.
People love Rolando. You're the man of the Valentine's Day hour.
So a couple of people asked, are you going to fish Palestine? Is it Palestine? Palestine? Palestine's a country, right? Or something over there. Palestine? I don't know.
Like a nation. A nation within a country, Palestinians.
Yeah. Anyway, so Are you going to fish that All American Series event there?
Yeah. What day does that fall? Because I'm going to the Bassmasters in championship in South Carolina. So
It's before that.
It's before that. No, I hadn't planned for it. I've been looking to see what I want to jump into. That's actually a pretty good one. I probably might consider it.
Might as well. You're on a roll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why stop now? Just dominate. Momentum, man. Momentum's a thing.
Man.
You better fish every tournament you can.
Yeah. No, it pretty grateful. Every dog has its day, so you go through these slumps and then you get these flurries of good fishing, and you just, like you said, keep that momentum going, and I'll take advantage of it while it's there and see what happens.
So the last question of the night from Steve Fields, one of the crowd favorites in the crowd there, the man on the camera boat out there. I saw those pictures he had. He asked, "Are you looking forward to the TOC now?" I mean,
yeah,
you talk about that. You're the first qualifier for the TOC for the year. Ready to roll.
I am. Yeah, I am. I'm pretty excited about that. I never seen. Is it cattle or where is it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I never seen it. I heard good things about it. I saw people do some serious damage on it, so I'm pretty excited. I'm gonna have to spend some time out there to really kind of take a look at it, because it's a different fishery.
Giants. I mean, it's like that for me. That's probably the healthiest fishery that I've ever fished a tournament on when we were down there for that. I mean, it was I mean, it was probably 80-something 6-pounders that got caught in one day of the event down there. It's stupid. I mean, everybody was catching giants.
Yeah, I can imagine that out there. It's just it's shallow, right? I heard it's super shallow.
It's not a deep lake. There's only a few deep parts, but it's all huge cypress trees scattered out, and you have to kind of figure out, and I'm sure it changes seasonally, are they on the solitary one big cypress? Are they looking for the groups of cypress? But Cody Milton, I saw him post like a 6-7 or something down there today. So he swung by there after the tournament.
Nice. Yeah, man, I'm excited about that. That's going to be I'm pretty sure they're going to produce some good bags out of there.
Ryan, I got somebody trying to say hello to the podcast. Uh-oh. I keep climbing up here. Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm trying to interrupt everything. Go back down.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought it was going to be Clifton Allen, but
no,
it was your puppy.
It's not. It was my pup.
Close.
She's trying to climb up in here. But yeah, man, TOC is going to be the event of the year, Steve says. I bet it will be. So looking forward to that. I'm a long ways from making it there, but we've got more swings at the deal.
How many people do they usually put in that event?
50 only.
They only take 50 total.
Hard stop at 50, yeah.
It's 3 from each event, so that's, 27. And then the winner from last year plus the rest come from the ALY points.
Yep.
Nice.
So it's tough. It's the toughest nut to crack in the whole
Got to work
deal.
to make that one for sure.
Yeah. So
especially with all these events capping out. I mean, it's a lot more pressure. It's a lot more competitive, with the 200-person max. And I mean, I think we're going to see probably another 6 events cap out.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make it to that Oklahoma one. So we'll see if I can get in it.
The Northeast guys, show up. Cap your event out, all right? Show up. Come on.
Well,
let's cap the whole season off. We can do it.
You got to go on and chase that AOY now, Rolando. You won the event, so you got to go ahead and try to get you a few more good events.
Yeah, but what is it? 3 events, right, or 4 events?
3 events. Come up to Broken Bow. That live scope will play up there for sure in May. Those suckers will be out there suspended off those deep points. You'll wear them out.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a shot, see if I can.
Yeah, man. All right, anything else, Ryan, before we get out of here?
No, man, I'm good. I'm going to go pack a bag and head to another state.
All right. Well, there we go. Rolando, thanks so much, man. I know you're tired. Congrats once again. Very impressive what you pulled off down there. You are a tactician, man. It was an impressive interview tonight. We appreciate
Wise
all the info you gave us.
Wise man.
No, I appreciate it, guys. Really, it's an honor, and it's always a good time. I see some of your boss cats, so I had a good time tonight.
I have a feeling we will see you again before the end of the season. If I were a betting man.
Yeah, for sure.
Hopefully.
For sure, man. All right. Well, Ryan,
all
happy
right,
Valentine's Day, man.
Happy Valentine's Day, boys.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, and I did the drawing while we had a pause there. Shane Carnahan. He asked a bunch of questions tonight, and he is the winner of the Revo Sunglasses giveaway. So, Shane.
You're going to be looking good, Shane.
You're going to be looking good, man. Anyway, that's it, y'all. We're gone. We'll see y'all next week.
All right, see ya.
Peace, guys.